Afternoon. I'm Dr. Mark Andrew Holacek, Jeffersonian scholar, author of 29 published books on Jefferson, one yet to be published, historian and philosopher. And I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Jeffersonian Vignettes, which is a hooponym of the real Thomas Jefferson, which comprises Jeffersonian Vignettes, one work, 5 questions, and conversations with Thomas Jefferson. Well, the purpose of Jeffersonian Vignettes is just to give you a very brief presentation from some one aspect of something Jefferson wrote or some one aspect of Jefferson's life. Today, I want to talk about Thomas Jefferson's death 10 years before he actually died. On January 24, 1816, Philip Thornton writes to Thomas Jefferson from Richmond concerning payment of $150 for use on Jefferson's Natural Bridge. Thornton writes, "Your friends here evinced a high degree of affliction at a report of your death by way of Lynchburg, stated in an extract of a letter from some merchant in that place. Fortunately, a letter of yours to a house in this town of the same date was conclusive evidence to the contrary. It oftener happens that men suffer the pain of many deaths than their friends the pain of lamenting it." What that means, I'm not sure. "May you die but once, and that period be a protracted one." I hope he's talking about the period prior to his death, not the period of his dying. Now, who was Philip Thornton? Thornton was an entrepreneur and opportunist who ingratiated himself to Jefferson to gain favors. In 1814, the former president of the U.S. formally allowed for Thornton to lease Jefferson's Natural Bridge after a proposal to William Carruthers, who had been mining shot, fell through. The contract, dated December 2, 1814, lasting for 5 years, granted permission for Thornton to manufacture shot at the bridge. Now, Thornton was allowed certain privileges. 1, to use 2 acres for personal use. 2, to create buildings. 3, to dam up Cedar Creek, which was flowing under the Natural Bridge, to create ponds from it. And 4, to cut any nearby timber for erecting or repairing his buildings, enclosures, or works gratis, and for firewood non-gratis. The United States war with England, the War of 1812, which began on June 18, 1812, and ended on February 17, 1815, was continual, and manufacture of shot for American soldiers' use was potentially lucrative. Now, Lynchburg, where news of Jefferson's death originated and spread, was a young but growing tobacco town at the time of Thornton's 1816 letter to Jefferson, and Jefferson had dealings with many of its most important merchants, and he sometimes passed through it en route from Monticello to Poplar Forest. He oftentimes sold or had his tobacco inspected at the tobacco warehouses of Lynchburg. Now, Jefferson replies to Thornton's letter of January 16 on February 7. He writes, "Story of my death, which you mention, has, I suppose, given a momentary pleasure to the inventor and some political partisans who think it ought to have happened 20 years ago. However, it has not affected my health, which has been uninterruptedly good, nor was I in Bedford where the death happened for a month before its period." So the idea is where a death of some person is reported, that person ought to be there when he dies. Now, on April 5, 1850, Mount Tambora in Indonesia began to rumble, and it erupted for a 4-month period. The ash and aerosols from the eruption yellowed the skies and even blotted out the sun late in 1815 and in the following year. It was dubbed in the Northern Hemisphere the year without a summer. The average global temperature dropped several degrees Fahrenheit. The somberness and bleakness of 1816 was felt globally. During that bleak summer, Mary Shelley wrote Frankenstein, and Lord Byron wrote his poem Darkness. Landscape painters Caspar David Friedrich and J.M.W. Turner captured yellow skies, among other painters who did the same. We compare below, as I'll show in a bit, Friedrich's paintings Monk by the Sea, done in 1809, and his Two Men by the Sea in 1817, when the effects of the eruption were still strong. I'll show those in a bit as we go off. Religious fatalists thought that the world was empty, It comes as no surprise that during such a gloomy period, there would surface rumors of Jefferson's death by Lynchburgian anti-Jefferson. Hope you enjoyed this video. We see the two paintings, and I'll say top for now, TTFN. And we'll do another episode of Jefferson Vignettes in the coming days. So take care and bye to all.